We recently had RAAAZ Ji Maharaj on the show. They say that there's a wave of Hindu Renaissance and Bharatiya cultural teachings that's just spreading across the world right now. The origin point, the nucleus is the subcontinent. But it's spreading all over the world because Rajarshi Nandi, my mentor in my spiritual journey, tells me that it's the will of the deities. And this deity is supposed to be one of the most powerful deities in our times. That's why he's a Chiranjeevi. That's why they say that he's still alive in physical form. But they say that the easiest way to ensure that Hanumanji shares the same physical space as yourself is to celebrate the Ramayan, is to read out the Sundarkand, is to just say Jai Siya Ram through your heart. Because as I learned by talking to RAAAZ Ji Maharaj, Hanumanji is one of those gods that doesn't like being praised, but he will praise Lord Ram and Sita Ma with you if you're praising them from your heart. That's the first lesson that you should know about Hanumanji. While you see the muscles, you see the power and his ability to pick up the gada, what you really need to learn is true devotion and humility. They say that when you pray to a particular deity in Hinduism, you gain that deity's qualities. And for me, yes, Hanumanji has been the reason I've gained emotional, mental, and definitely physical strength throughout my life. When I was a kid, my mom handed me a Hanuman Chalisa, and she told me that in my astrological chart, there's a big presence of Shani. And Shani is not really a negative deity. It's just a deity that creates some kind of challenges in your own life's journey, creates a lot of tests. And they say that if you are truly connected to Hanumanji, Hanumanji is kind of able to be your co-pilot along life's journey. And that's what I've truly felt, especially in my childhood. I remember picking up the Hanuman Chalisa when I was 9 or 10 years old. And the day I began reading it, simply reading it, there was a wave of self-confidence that took over my head, and this could totally be placebo. This could be something that my head was lying to my soul about, but the truth is that it worked. 9 years of running this YouTube channel, building 4 businesses, going through so many ups and downs in life, going through so much pain in life, going through a pretty tumultuous childhood, the constant has been that Hanuman Chalisa jap. It's been the core of what I choose to do. And for those of you who don't know about the Hanuman Chalisa, lots of people consider it to be the most mainstream Indian prayer. It's not even written in Sanskrit, it's written in Awadhi. But there's power in those words because they say that the person who wrote it, Tulsidas, was guided by Hanumanji through the language of Awadhi in order to transfer what Hanumanji wanted to say about himself. It starts with the following paragraph. Shri Guru Charan Saroj Raj Nijman Mukru Sudari Barno Raghubar Bimal Jasu Jodai Kufal Chari Buddhihin Tanu Jani Ke Sumiro Pavan Kumar Bal Buddhi Vidya Dehu Harhu Kales Bekar. You're inviting Hanumanji. Raghubar Bimal Jasu. You're first talking about Shree Ram. You're creating a presence of Shree Ram before you actually recite the Hanuman Chalisa, because that's what Hanumanji is about. First and foremost, it's about devotion. Second, it's about your own internal strength to protect devotion. And third, it's about humility. That's what you truly learn about Hanumanji when you go through the whole Ramayan, when you understand the story. If you're someone who still doesn't understand the story of Ramayan in its essence, I would point you towards the Japanese anime of Ramayan, which has become the imagery of Ramayan in my own head. And it's a great way to introduce the Ramayan to Western audiences. That animated Ramayan that they showed on Cartoon Network almost every single weekend had a huge impact on my life. And there's this one scene from that anime where in the story of the Ramayan, Ramji sends the Vanar Sena, the army of monkeys, in all 4 directions, but he sends a unit in the direction of the south. That unit had someone called Jamvant, it had someone called Angad, and it had someone called Shree Hanuman. They reached the tip of India, which I would assume is Kanyakumari of the modern day. And at this point, all Hanumanji knows is that he loves Shree Ram. That's all he knows about himself. He knows he's capable, but he doesn't know how capable he is. That's a key point that affected my own mentality when I was growing up. And that scene shows you how Jamwant, who's kind of the older general in the army, reminds Hanuman of his own internal abilities. He tells Hanuman that, you know what, in your childhood, you'd once swallowed the sun, but you don't remember this. In your childhood, you were able to do all these heroic things that you don't remember because you were so powerful that the gods clouded your own powers from yourself. But if you really try to remember what you are, you'll be able to jump across the ocean, not fly, just jump across the ocean and get to Sitama in Lanka. Later on, as I kept podcasting in life and as I met people like Rajarshi Nandi, Cyber Zeal, Gauranga Das Prabhu, all these insanely powerful spiritual humans, I realized that that story about Hanumanji is not just about him. It's the story of all of human capability at different levels. From a spiritual perspective, it's about the so-called Siddhis. Ashta Siddhi Naunidhi ke Data. It's a line from the Hanuman Chalisa. The Eight Siddhis. In Indian culture, they say that when you truly embrace your chase for God, Shree Ram, what ends up happening in the process is that you're able to unlock your own mystical superpowers that are already present inside you. But first and foremost, you need devotion. Second, you need internal strength. Third, you need humility. And fourth, someone just has to tell you. You need a Jamwant to tell you that, you know what? That's your origin point. That's where you come out from. This is how I was told this particular story. I remember being a pretty below average student in school, and that truly bothered both my parents, who were top doctors. So they were academics. Kind of bothered them that this kid is quite smart, really naughty, but can't sit in one place and study. But at that point, I started reading the Hanuman Chalisa. And I was left with even more energy, but a lot of self-belief. I knew that I'd be all right in life. They say that anyone who ukhados anything in real life, in the real world, anyone who's able to achieve anything in the real world, kind of knows it when they're a kid. Hanumanji believed in himself when he was a kid. He just didn't know that he was yet to unlock so many more capabilities. And my mom kept telling me the story between the age of 10 to 13. But at the age of 13, I slipped from being below average to the bottom of the class. I was in the bottom 4 or 5 students in my whole class. That hurt my ego a little bit. But that's also when 3 years of my mom telling me the same story really kicked in. I watched the animated Ramayan again. So as a 13-year-old, I began to work on my handwriting, but I also began to put in a lot of time and effort into becoming a better student, sitting with my books longer, putting in more work. Along with this, I got deeper into martial arts, and along with these changes, I began to recite the Hanuman Chalisa a little more. Not from a place of understanding what's happening. I just began to recite it a little more because that was my natural need. It almost felt like the thirst for getting closer to this energy I was gaining from the Hanuman Chalisa. They say that there's no difference between a deity's mantra and the deity itself. So when you say Om Namah Shivaya, which is a Shivji mantra, you're not just saying the mantra, but you're inviting the energy of the deity to sit in your own heart and then to govern your body, your mind, your soul, and therefore this temporary human life that we're living. At age 14, I was in the middle of a big road accident. I was sitting on the front seat of a bus where the bus driver almost died. It was a school trip. I was asleep on the first seat of that bus. I've spoken about this on the show. I woke up to people behind me just screaming, "Ah!" That's how I woke up. When I opened my eyes, I saw a bus that was coming towards us head on. Okay? The only thought in my head at that point was Hanumanji. Because this was a year after I made it back from the bottom of the class to not just being at the center, but being near the top. All I could see was Hanumanji. A bus driver at the last moment turned the steering wheel. So the bus that was heading for us head on, and I probably would have died if the bus driver didn't turn the bus. But the bus that was coming towards us head on hit the back of our bus. So our bus kind of started skidding and then it hit a tree. After these two impacts of the bus hitting the back of our bus and then hitting the tree, my first thought was, thank you, Hanumanji. Because I was not injured. There wasn't a scratch on my body. And when I looked up, there was a photo of Hanuman Ji right in front of me, right behind where the bus driver sits. I'm not making this up. I remember this like it was yesterday because this is where my belief really solidified. Getting back to the Jamvan story, what happens in the animated Ramayan? Jamvan reminds Hanuman Ji of his capabilities. He goes away, he meditates, something awakens inside him, a sense of self-belief awakens inside him, and he's able to jump across the ocean. On the way, he kills a demonic force that was haunting that particular part of the ocean. He kills that demonic force like it wasn't even there. And that's what Hanumanji has given me throughout my life and career. That I've landed up exactly where I had to land up. And on the way, I've killed off both external and internal demons. The internal demons are waivers. By external demons, I mean the difficult situations that life throws at you, but the internal demons are way worse. Anger, greed, lust, what have you. There is a power associated with these ancient spells that the world of Sanatan Dharma calls mantras. These are spells. But they work when you pour your love into it, when you pour your belief into it. When a bus that's heading straight at you, that's probably going to crush you into nothingness, doesn't hit you, doesn't even scratch you. When I turned around in that accident, some friends of mine had cuts on their face, for which they had to get stitches. Someone's tongue had gotten cut in half. Someone's back was injured, someone's foot was injured. My friends are still dealing with injuries from that same road accident that happened in 2007. They're dealing with it in 2024. And I truly believe that here I am because of this being's energy. All I remember doing after that bus accident was going to the back of the dhaba that we had crashed near and praying and saying thank you and understanding that, okay, he is totally protecting me. He is with me. And one day, maybe I'll become a YouTuber and tell the world about it. That's what's happening now. That's Hanumanji for you. As I've moved forward, I've learned about Hanumanji in so much more depth through the show, through all these episodes that you guys have seen. I've understood that there's a tantric aspect of Hanumanji. Om Han Hanumataya Namaha. There are tantric mantras associated, sharper mantras associated to extract more energy from the basket of energy that Hanumanji has left in the physical realm. You need to deep dive into Sanatan Dharma. You need to deep dive into Tantra to really understand how to connect deeper with the deities. But even if Tantra doesn't appeal to you, take for example the Bhakti movement in India. Take for example places like Vrindavan, where Vaishnavism is prevalent, where they pray to Krishna, where they pray to Ramji, where they pray to Hanumanji. Hanumanji is already present if they're praying to Ramji there. When you go to these places where there's no Tantra, you just spot love around you. The kind of bliss you see on people's faces there isn't comparable to the bliss that I've noticed anywhere else in the world. And I've traveled to Japan, which I thought was a very peaceful country. I've traveled to Australia, where I thought mostly on a surface level, people were very happy. I've traveled to Europe, where people were happy. I've traveled to America, where people were happy. I've traveled all over the world, but I've never seen the kind of bliss that I've seen in places like Vrindavan. When I talk to monks who pray to Krishna Bhagwan, there's a certain bliss in these people's voices that you can sense if you're truly listening to the podcasts and not just hearing them. And that's what Hanumanji's been for me as well. I've also noticed that, as a YouTuber, you need to be very self-aware in order to really maximize your own capabilities and maximize the quality of content that you're putting out for the world. I've had phases in my career where I've genuinely felt so capable that capability has turned into arrogance. And then I remember the story of the Mahabharat, where Bhim is roaming around in the forest and eventually he comes across a monkey with a really long tail and he says, "Hey monkey, move your tail out of my way." And the monkey says, "Listen, I'm really old. I'm not able to move it. Could you move it for me?" So Bhim tries lifting the tail, but he's not able to. And it's this old, frail looking monkey, but Bhim's not able to move the tail. And then eventually Bhim realizes that this isn't any ordinary monkey. It's probably Hanumanji. Both Bhim and Hanumanji were said to share the same father, which is the god of wind, which is Vayudev. So in some ways, they were brothers. Bhim meets his brother Hanumanji in the forest. And Hanumanji tells him, "You know what? Bhim, my younger brother, you're incredible. but you've allowed your self-belief and your own physical and mental strength to become a source of your arrogance, which is why you're never going to reach your full potential. So he trains him, he mentors him and tells him that along with this physical and mental strength, you need to develop a sense of humility very actively. You need to understand that even your greatest strengths are outcomes of God. The first time Messi touched a football, he was just able to dribble. And Messi has said this himself in a documentary that I saw recently. It's called Captains of the World on Netflix. Highly recommend you watch it. You'll get to know a lot about human character. Messi said that the way he plays football today is the same way that he began playing football when he was a child. The first time he touched a football, he was a dribbler. Where did that ability to dribble come from? That made him the greatest of all time. Any talent and strength that you're born with, that the world recognizes in you, is a gift from the divine. And you need to recognize that, and you need to be humble about it, because the moment you realize that you are nothing but a channel, a medium for the divine to act in this bhulok or the realm of earth, the moment you realize that you're a medium, life just starts working out for you. But it's important to touch arrogance sometimes and then allow your deity to teach you what it truly has to teach you. This muscular physique is not the only gift of Hanuman Ji. The actual gift is humility and devotion. That's the root of what Hanuman Ji stands for. The body of the tree is strength, emotional, physical, mental. Those are things you need to go through life. When I've been through the worst moments of life, I've gone back to my Hanuman Chalisa, the same little book that my mother gave me. I open it up very rarely now. I know the Hanuman Chalisa inside out. I know the meaning of it. But when I'm at my worst days, and worst days happen even at age 30, after all these spiritual podcasts, after growing so much, both materially and kind of growing spiritually as well, I have really bad days. I cry often. It's a very high pressure job. I'm getting scrutinized so much in front of the world. I'm growing up in front of the world. I'm making so many mistakes. I often cry because of my own mistakes, because I truly feel that any form of suffering is actually self-inflicted. It's your choices, your decisions that have led to that suffering. If not in this life, it's your decisions from your past life. So my relationship with suffering is changing. But the ability to handle that suffering comes from studying and restudying Hanuman Ji over the years, absorbing what that deity has to offer you. That's what Hanuman Ji is for me. So the roots are based on humility and devotion. And the body of the tree is strength. What are the leaves and fruits? The leaves and fruits are all the gifts that this deity can bring to you, as long as you keep watering the devotion and humility. That's what the Ramayan is about. Hey, if you enjoyed today's clip, make sure you check out all the other clips we've uploaded on this channel. You'll find a clip related to almost every single topic, as long as you're willing to search for it.